Hi, I'm Pat Doherty, otherwise known as the Serve Doctor here at the Bolletary Tennis Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Today we're going to talk about hammering the serve. The reason why I'm referring to it as hammering is that this racket is nothing more than a tool, much like a hammer. And if you can learn to work this tool more effectively, you're going to get a lot more results out of the racket head, thus impact the ball like the hammer hitting the nail. The fence can be a tremendous training tool, and it's on the back of every court. I use it quite a bit when I'm working with students on the serve. I can put them the right distance away from contact and get them the feel of what the racket head is doing when it makes impact with the ball. Are they coming into the fence with the grip first, with the arm first, and the racket head doesn't seem to be getting to the fence? Remember, this tool, much like the hammer, this is the head of the hammer. It doesn't matter what we're doing with the handle down here. This is just what we hold on to. We don't need to make the whole hammer hit the nail. We just want the action in the head. So I'll start them in this routine. If I've got adults that use more of the forehand grip and this type of action to hit the ball on their serve, then I'll work with that. I'll try to get the most out of it. What I usually find out is they're doing more of this kind of action. It's all coming from the wrist. That's not how we would hammer a nail. It's not an effective way of using a hammer. What I want to do is, first of all, getting them just pulling that racket over their shoulder and feeling the weight of the head hitting the fence. Now, the other thing I want to take into consideration here is I'm hitting the fence at a nice, reasonable spot for where my racket can work. That means I'd want the ball right about here. That's where I want my nail for this hammer action. What I see happen is that players that are using this type of technique here at the club level, they're spending their time trying to hammer that nail way up too high, and it breaks down any kind of power they could be producing with this action. So I'm telling them to bring the nail down the wall. The other thing that we want, try to put the nail in a consistent spot. I see a lot of players chasing the nail all over the wall trying to hit it. In other words, their toss is taking them here and there and the other place, and they're going up too high to get it. Let's put that ball in a spot we can really work with it, okay? So with the limits of this technique style, of more forehand grip and a limited action like this, I'm going to put the contact point a little lower. I know that's against the grain of what a lot of coaches will tell them, but that's where I think they're going to work best with it. And I'm going to look and see how they work that racket. Are they stopping the pull and using their wrist, or are they pulling that head speed right into the backside of the ball? Okay? That's the look. Let's take a look at the more advanced serve technique using the same hammer analogy. With a continental grip, we're going to be able to use a pitching motion and get that racket head much higher up this wall, the hammer up here, because it is an advantage to have a higher contact point if you've got the ability with your technique to swing strong up to a higher contact point. So I'm now working up here and the same action's occurring, but notice what's happening now is my elbow's rolling away, and that's what pronation's going to do. It's rolling that energy to the top of the racket and not getting the handle into the fence, only the head, okay? So if I take the racket out of this, this becomes the action. And I can go as fast as I want. My hand never hits the fence, okay? Then I put the racket back in, bang, bang. And I usually have my students look right at that spot. Where's the nail? I want you to see your racket head hitting flat on this. So when hitting flat, we're using the string bed as the head of the hammer. When you go into spins, you can practice against the fence leading with the edge a little bit more, and it's very effective at that too. So the hammer action on spin looks more like this. And again, this is not coming from my wrist. This is coming from the pull, this action here. Okay, now when I direct that up, by aiming my chest up more, that action's going to take me up towards contact more. Focusing on the flat again though, we're going to work just the face into it. Once I get the good feel of the weight of the racket head making good impact here, I'm starting to develop a nice swing path, and I can feel what kind of impact I'm going to have at contact. Once we've used the fence and made impact on the fence, I step the students away from the fence and have them focus on the impact of the ball hitting into the fence. Why do I bother with that step? Well, anytime you're having a student make an adjustment and you put them back up to the baseline and have them face the court and try to serve, it's like a computer pulling a file. The brain reaches in there, digs around, and finds your serve file. So if you're trying to adjust away from that old serve file, it can really fight you when you stand in that environment at the baseline and put yourself in a situation to want to draw up that serve. So what I do with the students is I choose to turn them away from the net. Now I put them in a foreign environment where they have the chance to explore and try new things. I don't even want them to think about serving right now. I just want them to focus on that hammer action onto the nail and making a good sound of impact when they meet the ball. So for my lower level players that are using the forehand grip and more of this kind of action, it's going to look like this. And notice I can get a lot of good power out of that action and add a lot of pace to serves that were struggling to get any pace at all. For a lot of the players, they're going to be happy just with that increase in pace, and I didn't take them through a long journey of changing the grip and changing the swing and all those things that probably aren't realistic for someone who only plays a few times a week at best. Now, here's how it looks for the more advanced serve. I'm going for a bigger impact. We're going to raise the contact point. The last one was here. Now we're going to be up here, and I want them to focus on what I say, rolling the elbow this way to get that racket head up and the speed into the top of the racket. So I'll have them repeat that 10 or 20 times till they get good solid impact, good loud pop noise at contact, and get a good feel of that hammerhead impacting the nail. Then I'll take them right up to the line. I tell them, don't think about the court, don't think about anything. Just concentrate standing here like you're going to pop it into the fence over there, put the ball up there and make a good solid impact on contact. And for 5 serves or so, they'll start doing it the way we want to do it, like we were doing it against the fence. Then that old serve file starts to surface again, so I may take them through this process several times. Back to the fence, back to impacting the ball into the fence, and then spin them around and go through this exercise again. So remember, this is a tool. Learn to get the energy to the head. This is the working end of the racket. This is the throat. This is what we hold on to down here at the bottom. We don't need all our power to stay in the handle. We need to get it to the head, like so, for contact. And yes, it will finish on around when the shoulders continue to rotate and creating the follow through. But the meat of this thing needs to get the head up to the fence, up to the nail, and a good solid impact on contact. Remember, hammer that serve, you'll start adding a lot more pace to your serves.